A gunslinger bought Infertile for Chinese girl for $1, and she gave him 6 children in 8 years. The wind howled off the snow-capped peaks of Montana, cutting through the streets of Ironwood Ridge like a jagged knife. It was the winter of 1902, and the blizzard seemed determined to bury the town under a shroud of white. Inside the drafty warehouse, however, the air was thick with the smell of damp wool, unwashed bodies, and desperation. Colt Riker stood in the shadows near the back, his hat pulled low over eyes that had seen too much violence. He was not a giant of a man, simply a man of average build, yet the way he wore his gun belt, low and tied down, gave him a presence that made others give him a wide berth. He was a retired gunslinger who had traded his peacemaker for a plow, trying to wring a living out of the hard earth, but the loneliness of his ranch was becoming a louder enemy than any outlaw he'd ever faced. On the makeshift stage, a line of women stood shivering, holding numbered cards. This was a bride auction, a meat market for the desperate souls of the frontier. The auctioneer, a sweaty man named Henderson, was trying to drum up enthusiasm for the last woman on the line. "Number 9, Henderson bellowed, his voice grating. "My Lynn. 24 years old. Strong worker, good with a needle, speaks fair English." The crowd murmured. My Lynn stood with her chin held high, though her knuckles were white as she gripped her card. She was small, with raven black hair pulled back severely, but her eyes held a fire that the cold couldn't extinguish. "What's the catch?" a heckler shouted from the front. "Why's she here if she's young?" Henderson hesitated, then cleared his throat. Doctors in San Francisco declared her infertile. "Barren. She's fit for work and keeping a home, gentlemen, but she won't give you heirs." The room went silent, then erupted in scoffs. In the West, a wife who couldn't produce children was considered as useless as a horse with a broken leg. "Start the bidding at $10. Henderson tried. Silence. $5. Colt Riker stepped forward, his boots heavy on the floorboards. He saw something in my Lynn's face, not defeat, but a fierce, quiet endurance. It reminded him of himself. $1, Colt said, his voice gravelly but clear. The room gasped. Henderson looked insulted. "Mr. Riker, surely." $1, Colt repeated. "Not because that's what she's worth, but because this isn't a sale of livestock. It's a contract. $1 to make it legal. I'm looking for a partner, not a broodmare." Henderson looked around. No one else moved. "Sold," he muttered, slamming his gavel down. To Colt Riker for $1. Colt approached the stage and extended a hand. My Lynn looked at it, then at him. She saw the calluses, the scars, and the gun on his hip, but she also saw a strange lack of cruelty in his eyes. She took his hand. "Do you have a bag?" he asked. "Just this," she said, lifting a small bundle. "Then let's go. The snow is getting worse." The ride back to Colt's ranch was silent, the carriage rattling over frozen ruts. When they arrived, the cabin was sturdy but stark. It was the home of a man who lived only to work. Colt showed her the spare room. "I know what they said about you," he said awkwardly, standing by the hearth. "About the children. It doesn't matter to me. I've got a past that's closed plenty of doors, too. I need help running this place, and well, I'm tired of the silence." My Lynn looked around the dusty room. "I will clean," she said firmly. "And I will cook. But I am not a servant." "You said partner." "I did," Colt nodded. "And I meant it." Over the next few weeks, the cabin transformed. My Lynn scrubbed the floors until the wood gleamed. She used dried herbs she had brought with her to season the venison Colt brought home, turning bland stews into meals that actually had flavor. She worked alongside him in the barn, handling the horses with a gentle confidence that surprised him. She was small, but her strength was wiry and relentless. One evening, as the snow piled up against the windows, sealing them in, Colt sat by the fire cleaning his revolver. "You're good with the stock," he observed. "My father trained horses," My Lynn said. "Before the debts." Before I was sold. Colt nodded, saying nothing. The silence between them had changed. It was no longer empty, but companionable. The doctors, she said suddenly, staring into the flames. They were men who looked at me for 5 minutes and decided my future. They said my womb was cold. But they did not know me. Colt looked up. You think they were wrong? I think nature does not always listen to men in suits, she replied. I think I am healthy. I think perhaps I just needed a home where I was not afraid. Colt set the gun down. He had been careful, sleeping in the loft, giving her space. He was a gunslinger, a man of violence, and he had assumed a delicate creature like her would fear him. But she wasn't delicate. She was forged iron. I've wanted a family, Colt admitted, his voice low. But I figured that chance was gone. Maybe it is not, My Lin said, meeting his gaze. They consummated their marriage that night, not as a transaction, but as two lonely survivors finding warmth in the bitter winter. It was a partnership in every sense. Spring brought the thaw, and with it, a change in My Lin. She was sick in the mornings, and her appetite grew ravenous. When she missed her monthly courses for the 3rd time, she told Colt. The gunslinger, who could shoot a coin out of the air at 50 paces, turned pale and had to sit down. Are you sure? He asked. I am sure, she smiled. The doctors were wrong. Their first son, Thomas, was born the following winter, during a snowstorm that rivaled the one brought them together. Colt delivered the boy himself, his hand shaking for the first time in his life as he held the tiny, squalling life. He looked at My Lin, exhausted and triumphant in the bed. You gave me a son, he whispered. For $1, you gave me a son. A good investment, she murmured before falling asleep. But the world was not kind to a mixed family in 1903. When they went into town for supplies, whispers followed them. That's the barren girl, women would hiss. Must be a trick. Or maybe it ain't his. Colt's hand would drift toward his gun belt, his eyes hardening, but My Lin would touch his arm. Let them talk, she would say. We have the truth. That is enough. However, the truth became undeniable. The following year, My Lin gave birth again, this time to twins, Samuel and David. The town's gossip shifted from malice to bewildered awe. The barren woman now had 3 sons in 2 years. Life on the ranch was hard work. They raised cattle and horses. My Lin took over the breaking of the colts, using a method of patience and trust rather than the brutal breaking techniques common at the time. Colt managed the cattle and the business. They were a seamless team. When Colt fell ill with influenza in 1905, it was My Lin who nursed him, using traditional Chinese remedies alongside the doctor's medicine, refusing to let him surrender to the fever. You are too stubborn to die, she told him as she spooned broth into his mouth. I have too much to live for now, he rasped. By 1908, they had welcomed a daughter, Sarah, and another set of twins, James and William, in 1910. 6 children in 8 years. The house that had once been silent was now a chaotic symphony of shouting, laughter, and thundering footsteps. The infertile girl had built a dynasty. The true test of their partnership came not from biology, but from the law. In the spring of 1911, a wealthy rancher named Bartholomew Vance accused Colt of stealing breeding stock. Vance was a man who used the law as a weapon, knowing that a former gunslinger's reputation would work against him. I have a bill of sale, Vance claimed in the town courtroom, waving a forged paper. Riker stole those mares. Colt was ready to settle it the old way, with iron. He stood on the porch, checking the action of his Winchester. I won't let him take what's ours, he said, his eyes cold. He steps on this land, I put him in the ground. No, My Lin said, taking the rifle from his hands. If you kill him, you go to prison or the gallows. Then who protects us? Who teaches Thomas to ride? Who walks Sarah down the aisle? We fight this my way. Your way. Colt scoffed. The court won't listen to a Chinese woman. They will listen to the truth if it is undeniable, she said. The trial was a spectacle. The courtroom was packed. Vance's lawyer painted Colt as a violent brute and My Lin as a foreign trickster. When My Lin took the stand, the lawyer smirked. "Mrs. Riker," he sneered. "You claim these horses are yours. Can you prove it? Or do you just do whatever your husband tells you?" My Lin sat straight, her hands folded. "I manage the breeding records," she said clearly. "My husband manages the cattle. I know every mark on every foal born on our land." "That's just word of mouth," the lawyer dismissed. "Is it?" My Lin pulled a small, leather-bound book from her pocket. "This is a log of bloodlines, birth dates, and distinctive markings for the last 8 years. The mares Mr. Vance claims he bought 3 years ago. I have records of their births in our barn 2 years prior to his date. I also have the records of their feed, their shoeing, and their medical care, signed by the town blacksmith and the veterinarian." She opened the book. "Furthermore, the mare Bessie has a scar on her left flank from a wire fence when she was a filly. Mr. Vance claims he bought her pristine. If you examine the horse outside, you will find the scar exactly where I described it." The judge ordered the examination. The scar was there. The blacksmith corroborated the records. Vance's forgery was exposed for what it was, a clumsy attempt to bully a family he thought was weak. The judge ruled in Riker's favor. As they walked out of the courthouse, Colt looked at his wife with a reverence that went beyond love. He had saved her from the auction block, but she had saved him from the noose. "You were right," Colt said, lifting her onto the wagon seat. "Your way was better." "Partners," she reminded him. As the years rolled on, the Riker ranch prospered. The children grew strong and capable. Thomas took to the cattle, while Sarah showed a brilliant mind for numbers and helped run the books. The stigma of their parents' marriage faded, replaced by respect for the empire they had built from dirt and snow. One winter evening in 1930, Colt and My Lin sat on the porch. The snow was falling again, thick and silent, covering the world in white just as it had the day they met. Colt was an old man now, his gunfighting days long buried, his movements stiff with arthritis. My Lin's hair was streaked with grey, but her back was as straight as ever. 28 years, Colt said, watching his breath mist in the air. "Best dollar I ever spent." My Lin laughed softly, grabbing his rough hand. "You got a bargain, Gunslinger." "I did," he agreed. "I surely did. I bought a wife and got a life." They watched the snow fall over the land that would belong to their children and their children's children. The Gunslinger and the Barren Girl, 2 rejects of the frontier who had found salvation in a single silver dollar. The story of Colt and My Lin serves as a profound reminder that human worth can never be determined by the labels society places upon us. While the world saw a violent man and a broken, infertile woman, they saw the potential for love and redemption in one another. Their journey teaches us that resilience is not just about enduring hardship, but about having the courage to build a future when everyone tells you there is no hope. It illustrates that true partnership is built on mutual respect and the willingness to fight for each other, whether that battle is in a courtroom or against the elements. Family is not merely a matter of blood or biology, but a fortress constructed from trust, forgiveness, and unwavering loyalty. Ultimately, their legacy proves that even the smallest investment of faith, like a single dollar, can yield a dynasty of love if nurtured with patience and heart. What do you think about Colt's decision to trust My Lin despite what the doctors said? Do you think you would have had the courage to stand against the whole town like they did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this incredible story of the Wild West, please hit the like button and subscribe for more true stories of history's most fascinating underdogs. Thanks for watching.